Hello, shortcuts. Here we have video 2 for this week's lists. We had jazz just a minute ago, and now I've got a list of pure, unadulterated classic rock with a few little nips and tucks along the way with some different little things. But I'm going to start here. I'm so annoyed that I don't have Led Zeppelin 2 to complete the quartet. We're going to have to live with Led Zepp 1, Led Zepp Untitled, or 4, depending on your business, and my favourite, Led Zeppelin 3. What I'm actually going to pull out here is something that's nestled in the back of Led Zeppelin 3 that I think is pretty fabulous. Look at that, my friends. That is a poster that went along with early presses of Led Zeppelin 3 and our friends. With our friends in the land of the rising sun. Led Zeppelin 3 with poster. My friends, that is cool. Led Zeppelin 4 in immaculate condition. The gatefold is superb. Hard cardboard gatefold. Gotta love our friends. They are so amazing. And then finally, Led Zepp 1. Where it all began. Recorded in a few days. Smacked out the park. Straight off the bat. What an opening run over the course of little more than a couple of years. Really special stuff. All right. With that out the way, for those of you who haven't filled your boots with Led Zeppelin, this is my personal... the next track's pretty good too. But I think this is my personal favourite from tonight's list. A Pagan Place by the Waterboys. Their second record. Their first with Carl Wallinger, who didn't stay with the band that long. He went on to form one of my wife's favourite bands, World Party. A Pagan Place is like a glorious mix of Celtic rock and Phil Spector. It is a cacophony. It starts off from the very, very first song, which is a massive tune. Church Not Made with Hands. Look at the obi, isn't it beautiful? And I always thought that opening song was... I still play it now and then as a way to blast the cobwebs out. But on side 2, there's the equally magnificent and appropriately named The Big Music, which is what I think of with Mike Scott and the guys from Anto Thistlethwaite. I saw them so many times when I lived in Ireland. And, oh man, what a live band. Yeah, really, really fabulous. Talking about great live bands, underappreciated live band. But really, this band became synonymous with the phrase, they're a singles band. I think over time, though, several of their records have become recognised as maybe slightly underappreciated at the time. Your records like All Mod Cons and Setting Suns. But this is something special. Stephen Thomas Erlewine who's one of the greatest living music writers. In his review of this record on allmusic.com, he describes it as the greatest of greatest hits albums. This is the Jam Snap double LP with the story of the band on 2 records. And this is a truly immaculate Japanese first press. Now, why does Stephen Thomas Erlewine consider this to be the greatest of greatest hits records? Well, every song is killer. But what makes this better than your By the Numbers compilation is it includes some rarities and B-sides, and it, forgive the cliche, takes you on the journey of the band. You can hear how their sound evolves, how they start to bring in soul, and how the songwriting just flowers and blossoms from the kind of punky This Is the Modern World through to Beat Surrender and A Town Called Malice. It really is spectacular, and I've been looking for another copy of this. I have this on my shelf. I've been looking for a second copy for a long time. I think it's magnificent. I think this band are as far away from the Jam as you can get. But, you know, Mutt Lange got a hold of Def Leppard and turned them into a global juggernaut. This is Pyromania, their 3rd record on the Vertigo label. Japanese first press. Very, very, very lovely it is too. And man, does it pelt out the speakers. It's although, of course, Mutt Lange really did polish off the edges. And those harmonies and the harmonics, not just in the layering of Joe Elliott's voices, which they did, they double, triple, quadruple, quintuple tracked them on everything, but also the layering of the guitars. Man, it's really something. I don't think you can really talk about layered guitar with this next group. This is classic rock royalty. We have Queen's 3rd record, and many people's favourites, Sheer Heart Attack. But probably this is the canonical record, A Night at the Opera. Both Japanese first presses, but let me just say, The Night at the Opera in particular is in immaculate condition. Normally, this record is mottled to all hell because of the humidity in Japan, but this copy is the best I have ever seen. It is spectacular. This Sheer Heart Attack's pretty damn good too, but it doesn't quite live up to A Night at the Opera, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody, etc. But I do really like Killer Queen and Brighton Rock from Sheer Heart Attack, and the closest Queen ever came to being a punk band. Now we've got more classic rock royalty. This is an example of when the Japanese largesse is writ large. It's when they just went doolally, and a lot of this existed in the Western copies too. But I do love the books, the multiple books that came with the rather wonderful Captain Fantastic by Elton John. Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, of course. Part of that majestic mid-70s run that, you know, kind of left him left him pretty drug-addled as a human being, but as famous as anyone has probably any right ever to be. So I love that record very much. But this next one is the first time I've had this on the list. This is Too Low for Zero, Japanese first press with Obi. And why is this notable? Well, this record's notable because it is reasonable to say with a single man and maybe a couple of other records where he was running into the kind of early 80s, where his relationship with Bernie Taupin had kind of changed and they weren't quite gelled on these records, and some records without Bernie involved at all. But Bernie wrote the lyrics to every song on this record, and of course that led to hits like I'm Still Standing, and I guess that's why they call it the blues, with that magical harmonica solo by one Stevie Wonder. Too Low for Zero, Elton John. 2 triangle, 4 circle. What a weird little thing that Elton had going on with that. That record, Too Low for Zero, was Elton John's second biggest selling record of the 80s. Behind, what's the one with Sacrifice? I can't remember the name of it now. It'll come back to me, of course, in a minute. But anyway, yeah, very well regarded and a really lovely sound. I've got a couple of oddities and then some royalty to finish. So this is, by a mile, the oddest record on tonight's list. The Monkees, Forever in the Beatles' shadow. But a quirky, interesting experiment, undoubtedly. And Head, the movie that they made in 1966, this is the soundtrack to Head. Now this sleeve is so incongruous to the music. The soundtrack to Head is psychedelic, trippy, weird collage of dialogue, jokes, 7 or 8 great tunes. It regularly listed in the top 25 soundtracks of all time, because it's in between the idiosyncrasies are some majestic kind of psychedelic songs. But how do you make a psychedelic record tally with that sleeve? The Japanese got that one up the left. Anyway, great record. Very, very odd packaging. One of the great bands of the 70s is The Band. And the classic lineup were Richard Manuel, Rick Danko, Robbie Robertson, Levon Helm. This is the last of the records that classic lineup made. And it is a white label promo of that. Those first 7, The Band records, stand up with anything. Certainly the greatest run, I think, of any band on the Capitol Records label. Yeah, pretty fabulous stuff. All right, we've got 3 to go. Now, this record, Hey Jude, the Beatles, has become a little bit of Shortcuts royalty as well. So many of you have picked up this record that collects together singles and B-sides and stuff that for many other bands would be would be the making of them, but for these guys, just offshoots. Hey Jude, Revolution, Paperback Writer, Lady Madonna, Can't Buy Me Love, Don't Let Me Down, The Ballad of John and Yoko, Rain. The bass line on Rain is ridiculous. The first time I've ever had it in such immaculate condition with Obi. Yeah, it's wonderful. Hey, it's in a beautiful condition. I think whoever snags that will be blown away. 2 to go. There's way too much testosterone on this list, so we've got to balance it out with a bit of Sade, The Promise, The Sweetest Taboo. I use The Sweetest Taboo to show off my my record player on many an occasion. The song was 6 months in the Billboard charts, and it probably was 6 months too short. Just beautiful record. And I know a lot of you have it, but somebody out there, you will not regret it. And then finally, a little bit of history. The final Tamla Motown record by one Michael Jackson. This is his 3rd record. This is Forever Michael. You can hear that he needs to do his own thing. And he does. He heads off and leaves poor old Tamla Motown thinking, what could have been? But it's a really fun and beautiful little pop record. So there you have it. Lots of royalty. Led Zepp, Elton, MJ, Sade, Def Leppard, Queen. I think I ticked the classic rock box with little things in there, like white label promos from the band and, you know, psychedelia from the Monkees. Something to delve into, I think. As always, love you all for listening. If you stayed this long, well done you. And subscribe, comment, like, all that business. Apparently it makes a difference. Thank you all for listening, and see you all Wednesday at 9 o'clock for Jazz and Rock. As always, looking forward to it. Bye.